Hello everyone. So today's video is short and sweet. For the reason being that this topic actually involves a lot of research and a lot of observations from reading Kundlis. So any one of you actually commented that can you please explain to us Kal Sarp Yoga? Okay, and I read the comments. That's one thing, and I take the requests. That's another thing. So it's an area that I am exploring currently, and Kalsarp Yoga are actually of majorly two types. So the first type is this, that when all the planets are situated between Rahu and Ketu, right? And planets should not be sitting with Rahu and Ketu is the condition that is required over here. Now, in this case, all the planets are approaching Rahu, then it becomes Anulom Kalsarp Yoga. Okay, so that is the first type of Kalsarp, that is all the planets are approaching Rahu. So let's say if your Ketu is sitting in the first house and Rahu is sitting in the seventh, all the planets, I'm talking about the 7 planets that are not Rahu and Ketu, that are not south node and the north node, right? So other 7 planets are always going in clockwise motion, the normal motion. They go in front. The direction is always clockwise because they don't have feet that are backwards like Rahu Ketu does. Because Rahu Ketu, let's say if your Ketu is in first house, I'm taking the example and I'm still explaining you Anulom Kalsarp Yoga, right? So let's say your Ketu is in the first house in the sign of Aries. Now, if you see the transits also, if Ketu is progressing, right, Ketu will not progress from Aries to Taurus. That's not the way they work. Ketu will progress from Aries to Pisces because it has to go backward, right? Similarly, when we try to understand the two types of Kalsarp yogas, the first is Anulom and the second is Viloma. So the first type, Anulom, here all the 7 planets are approaching this Rahu, right? And Rahu is going towards them. So this one is called the Anulom Kalsarp Yoga. Whereas the Kalsarp Yoga, wherein all the planets are approaching Ketu and Ketu is going towards them, right? This is called Viloma Kalsarp Yoga. So this is what B.V. mentioned, B.V. Raman sir mentioned in his book about the Kalsarp yogas that are primarily of 2 types. And this is not it. There's so much that has been written about Kalsarp Yoga, that has been found about Kalsarp Yoga through different great astrologers. And I don't know like how many people are more going to come up with all the case studies they do and with all these intensive research that's going on in astrology currently, because there are so many astrologers that have come up as well. And now with the advent of technology, we are actually able to also reach to that source of knowledge, right? Otherwise, we would have never known unless it gets published in the magazine or something. So when these are the 2 types of Anulom, Kalsarp Yoga and Viloma. And the Viloma one is known to be as the Amrit Kalsarp Yoga as well. And the reason where Amrit, the word has been given to it, is because now all the planets are approaching Ketu, right? So in this case, and Ketu is also approaching them. So the intensity of Ketu becomes too much. Versus if you have Anulom, which is the Rahu is approaching all these planets and all these planets are approaching Rahu. Then in this case, it's just simply called Kalsarp, and the intensity of Rahu is too much. But what I want to tell you is that this doesn't mean that either of them is good or bad. They're actually both equals, and I'll explain you why. The reason being is that we all have a need to to have some sort of desires in order to like go up in life. If those desires are not there, then probably how the growth is going to be, right? If you just see Rahu is that demon which has his mouth open, and he's taking this entire earth in his mouth. It looks like some ball. Like there are so many pictures available, especially when I work. I write something, I see it on Canva. So, and I have used those pictures as well. So, and of course in the statues as well, you will see. So I'll do a representation of it. Don't laugh on me. There's this entire earth or the entire Brahman, you never know. And Rahu is saying, I want all of it, like that. So, and while Ketu is not that head. It's Lord Ganesh, right? So you just take this, forget about this. If you see this just Rahu and just Ketu, you're obviously going to see that the body is missing if you're looking at the Rahu's head, and you're obviously going to see that the head is missing if you just see the Ketu's head, right? And in both these cases, what's happening? Something's missing. There's only one thing. So when we try to apply, whether it's your divisional charts, whether it's your main chart, even if like let's say this particular position happens in your Chalit chart, because let's say in the Lagna chart it's not there, but in Chalit chart you see, oh my god, I have this, either the Kaal Amrita or the Kaal Sarpa yoga. It's going to have a say in us, in our lives, right? But is it like we need to be very stressed out about it? Because probably when people ask, I have myself been very scared of it, and even there are so many people who get scared of it. It's because it's all about how that particular information is being disseminated to all of us. So it has not, it really doesn't have to do with anything with what it is like, but rather how it is perceived, and then how over the years astrology had to be commercialized by some people, right? Like it was a need for them, it had to be commercialized, and today astrology is commercialized, right? So with that being said, and having understood that astrology is more of a minting money kind of a thing, then we need to have our senses right in place, that okay, what is written on the internet or what is being said in general as a copy paste and so on and so forth is not the accurate thing. So if like let's say you try to see what if you try to read what B.V. Raman said, right? Sir said, so there's mentions about going to extremes. When there is a Kaal Sarp Yoga, there is a tendency to go into extremes, okay? Because what happens when you just see the head? You are not feeling balanced because that body is missing, right? And what is happening when you're just seeing the body? The head is not there. There's something missing again, right? So there's a sense of balance that goes missing when this sort of situation takes place. Either you're too much into the Ketu element and you leave the Rahu, but then you want balance in life. So it's like you want the Rahu, you want to have desires, but you are, because you have Viloma Kalsar, which is the Kalamrit one, where all the planets are approaching the Ketu, and the Ketu is also approaching them. So in this case, you have become a person who is just too much about leaving things, desirelessness, which Ketu is like. I'll leave all this, but then how that balance is going to be ever there if there is no head? Like we need to have some desires again in order to again inspire this spiritual journey of desirelessness, right? Similarly with Anulom Kalsar Yoga, wherein all the planets are approaching Rahu and Rahu is approaching them. So there's a sense of desirelessness that is missing, and there are more of desires. So the desires are more, and a sense of desirelessness is missing. So eventually this sort of a person realizes that if my desires make sense at all, then I need to have this side of life as well, where I enjoy nothingness as well. Which is the reason that when it comes to Kaal Sarp Yoga, because I'm not talking about the Sheshnag, Vasuki, Kulik, I'm not talking about them. Of course, if you dive deep into what B.V. Raman sir said about it in the book, and I'll also share the book in which this thing is written with all of you in the community section, so keep an eye there, but I'll share eventually. He has also went ahead and explained that it can be like an obsession, because Rahu in general is obsession, just simple, whereas this Ketu is absolutely no obsession at all, which can become an obsession too. Spirituality can become an obsession as well, which people don't understand. So where is the balance, right? People often think that, oh, I just want to let go of everything, but if you are too attached, uh, and you want to let go and you're too attached with that thing, then again the attachment is anyway there, right? The desire is anyway there. So natives with whether the Anulom or the Vilom Kalsarp, the Kalsarp or the Kaal Amrit, are always like dwindling between these two ends. And what happens when you don't have, so let's say you have a planet sitting with the Rahu, you have a planet sitting with the Ketu, then you need to also see the degrees. So just because a planet is sitting with Rahu or Ketu, I don't cancel that Kalsarp. The reason being is that, let's say, because Ketu moves backwards, right? Ketu is going to Pisces from Aries, as I explained initially, and Rahu is going from Libra to Virgo, right? With, let's say, a planet sits with Ketu. Let's say a planet like Venus sits with Ketu. Now Ketu is at 15 degrees in Aries, and Venus is at 4 degrees in the sign of Aries. Now what's happening is that Venus is approaching that Ketu, okay, and Ketu is not approaching that Venus. Ketu is also approaching that Venus, because Ketu is not going from 15 to 16 degrees, it is going from 15 to 14 degrees, right? So in this case, this Venus is coming under the, it's getting hemmed, it's getting sandwiched. Why to use the word hemmed? We have used enough of negative words, malefic and all of it, right? So it's getting sandwiched between Rahu and Ketu. But let's say if it's not that way, if Venus is actually at 15 degrees and Ketu is at 5 degrees. So if you see, Venus will go from 15 to 16 towards the Taurus sign, and Ketu will go from 5 to 4 degrees, which is towards, from Aries it wants to basically exit towards Pisces. So in this case, this will become a very partial kind of a yoga, whether it is Anulom or Vilom, because at least there is one planet which is acting like that planet which is giving balance. That is, you can also say that it's not providing really balance, but what it is doing is that it is making you come out of that extreme zone. It's more like that, because it's not sandwiched between the two. So this is how we will see. And of course, when moon comes out of such a situation where all the 7 planets are there, but let's say now all the 6 planets are there and the 7th one being moon comes out of the axis of Ketu Rahu, right? So in that case, it's called Anshik Kalsarp Dosh, which is, again, I think it's a partial Kalsarp Yoga only. My understanding is, but if I'm wrong, just correct me, right? So with this, what we understand is that we all have a side to us wherein we are very extreme about something. And let's say if we are not, because this is the conclusion part of the video, let's say if we are not very, again, why to use the word extreme also, because this force can be Also like a determination factor. And if let's say your not let's say your soul actually chose this placement, right? So like if let's say Shani Bhagwan is the accountant, Saturn, Lord Saturn, and he makes all these kundlis, and he's like, you did this, you did that, debit, credit, the remaining, and the these are your debts and these are your credits. You need to give and take more, and all of it. So you were there, sitting or standing in front of him in the line when he was doing for all the other souls before you just took birth, or maybe before you came in the womb, or while you were in the womb, all this processing was taking place somewhere, and in the astral world. And now you are, because of the world, you're getting scared about it, that okay, like that, curse, right? So of course it is a curse, because it feels like a curse when we are all the time like obsessed or in extremes about something. But what I would like to clarify from my understanding, I'll give an example of it to you. So I saw this person, I read his kundli, okay, I read his birth chart, and this particular fellow, this particular person is, quite obsessed about having a particular position in his career, okay, and having all things balanced and sorted in his career, right? And there is no Kal Sarpyog. But what was there in his birth chart was that there was this particular planet that actually went and sat with Rahu. Another kundli, the same thing happens. There's no Kal Sarpyog, whether Anulom, Vilom, whatsoever. There is this planet that goes and sits with Ketu. Now listen to me. There is no Kal Sarpyog. There is no planet sitting with Rahu or Ketu. Just that the Rahu is in the first axis and the Ketu is in the seventh axis, and there is an extreme obsession related to either the self and one's life and partnerships. You get it? So certain things can only be experienced because you are either in this field, right? Either you chase this field or this field chases you, or something of astrology. But let's say you have not come to that particular point wherein you're just getting scared about it. Fear is only a thought, was said by someone, I forgot whom. Fear is only a thought, right? So, and like if we keep feeding that particular thought, then, right, what's the use of it? Similarly, what I want to talk about is that people are fearful of not just Kal-Sarp. People who don't have any Kal-Sarp or whatsoever, they still are afraid of every, like, let's say Saturn moon. Kemambram, the moon sitting alone and there's no planet around it or with it. There are so many other things that people are in general scared of it. But it's again going back to that thing, you signed this contract and you came. And coming back to Kal-Sarp, in conclusion, that this is trying to help you. This particular thing is trying to help you. So there was this one more kundli that I read of a person who is from the US. I don't remember exactly where in US because she had her Rahu in the third house, as far as I faintly remember, her Ketu in the ninth house, and all the planets sandwiched in between. This was a Kaal Sarp Anulom one, because all the planets Anulom, because all the planets are approaching Rahu. Yes, I did this reading long back, so sorry for that. She was not happy with her income. Okay, so she earns well, but in between something happened because of which her income went down, and because she switched the office, and in the new office that she went, her pay scale was not that. So she became upset about it, and now she wanted to again switch to another place. However, I told her that as per the Varshfal, which is the annual chart and everything, it may be a risky thing. It's kind of dicey. You never know. So let's not go ahead and do it. Like, let's be a little bit patient. But cherry on the cake, like we say, na, icing on the cake. The Mars was in the first house, so the impulsiveness is there. And anyway, the Rahu is there. So she wanted to shift. Right now, she was adamant that I will shift because I deserve a better pay scale and stuff. So this is just an example. This was in the Lagna, of course. The point is that your soul is going towards more towards the desires, because that's what it essentially wants to do. It wants to go more towards the desires, but it's always dwindling between the to find a balance. And whether you go for Ketu, it's again trying to find a balance. And if you see some of the good astrologers who have done justice to the planets and their energies, instead of defaming them, or like maybe probably just commercializing the whole entire thing, and then getting pujas done on the name of fear, 20 50,000 they're earning. So not such ones, but the ones that are actually the ones who are genuine and who have respected these energies, because that's how it should be ideally. They have said this thing, that it's a transformative yoga. It's a transformative yoga. So there's a lot of stuff that is going on in astrology, like I'm telling you. And there will be a lot of inputs and a lot of takes on it. And the more you try to read them, which are not from the actual sources, or the person who's telling you is not from directly coming from the source, then it's going to be a headache for you. And if you are, a person who's of very absorbent nature, because I understand, as a person who experiences that myself, if you are somebody of a very absorbent nature, then you may feel very pulled down. And especially, like, let's say if you read something and it doesn't come out to be correct for you, right? Your system will not agree to it. Like, this doesn't go well with my chart, and that's where the rage comes in, that I have to learn and I have to acquire so much of knowledge about it, that I can in fact be that light of consciousness for others. So with that being said, I had to conclude the video long ago, but I was like, for once and all, I'll make whatever that I know about it. And there is no need to be afraid of it, because I just explained to you all of it, all about it. And it's a transformative yoga. So just remember the word yoga and remember the word transformation. And you have nice examples of transformations as well. We have many people who have, like Sachin Tendulkar, Dhirubhai Ambani, who have these yogas. They have it. And if not determination, then how else they would have achieved it, right? So there's a difference between determination and extreme or slash obsession. So I hope this video made sense to all of you, and I hope that my fair share of research or whatever helps you. First of all, don't be scared at all of anything, and have a lot of trust and faith on the divine, because these things will keep happening, wherein we will get a lot of fear. But what we need to remember is that our soul says something, and whenever we hear something that is against it, then our mind will not accept it, and but will start that resistance, will start that fight within us, that conflict within us, and that's what leads to certain fears and other things. So I hope you take good care of yourself, and do not fall in the trap. Love and light. See you all.